Hello, welcome to Stamp and Create with Beth. I'm Beth Roy, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today, I'm going to show you a tutorial on how to make your perennial postage dies look like postage stamps. This is one of my favorite techniques to do with this die set. So, first I'm going to, let's see, we have a Mossy Meadow base. It is 5.5 by 8.5 and it's scored at 4.25. I have an inside layer. It is 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. And then I have my die cut, and I just used basic white, and I'm going to show you how I drew in the lines and stamped my scene. Now I did use some retired sets for this. I used the Coming Home set for the trees, and I used one of my favorite retired sets, Spirited Snowman. I love this little ice skating snowman. And then for the greeting, I used a older paper pumpkin set from November of 2015. I love this merry and bright greeting. And then the perennial postage dies come like this. This is the second largest die. Okay, so to start off, you need a ruler and a pencil. And I like to use my grid paper. You can use your glass mat if you have that. And I just lay it down, and we're going to mark it with a pencil because we will erase extra lines later. So we're going to do 1/4 of an inch from each side, and I just line my ruler up with my grid paper and I draw a light line, and I'm going to do that on all 4 sides. And we're going to use this as a guide when we're all finished stamping, or you could do it opposite of how I'm doing it, and you could trace in the solid lines before you do your scene. Either way is absolutely fine. My preference is I like to stamp and then do my lines. And if you want a wider border for your postage stamp look, you could do 1/2 inch, or if your grid paper has 1/8 of an inch, you could do it a little wider that way. So after you do all your sides, you have this border around it, and we're going to stamp right inside of here. And I'm stamping with basic gray ink, and I colored with Stampin' Blends. So change it up to whatever colors you like. And if you like pencils, use those. So we're just going to stamp our snowman in here and have him toward the bottom. And then I'm going to do a couple of the small trees. Now I liked this tree image with my snowman, so use what you have and pick whatever stamps you like. And I just put a couple little trees. And I'm going to show you really quickly how I built my scene, and then I have one that's already completed that we're going to use so that the video is not super long with me coloring. A couple quick tips if you like to use the blends. I like to use the gray granite for my snow. I've been coloring a lot of these cards, and that is just my preference over the smoky slate. You may use either one. I'm going to use mostly the light gray granite. Also, if you're using Stampin' Blends, we don't have any lighter colors in the gray family, which is what I want to use for my snow. So I'm going to be using the color lifter to help kind of push that through my paper and blend it a little bit and lighten it so that it's not as dark. And you can see on the finished card that it's not as dark as it will be when you first see me color it. I also brought in some light balmy blue to help with my frozen pond and a little bit of blue on my snowman. So what I did, and I'm just going to do this quickly, I'm not going to do the whole scene. I just started out a little bit from the edge and added some color here. And you're going to bring it out pretty far because we're going to push a lot of that through and smooth the edge. So it starts out kind of dark and then we're going to lighten it. Now, if you're using Copics or something like that, you probably have a lighter gray, and you could choose the lighter gray so you're not pushing so much of the ink through your paper. So I'm just barely trying to touch my paper because snow needs some shadows in it. So I'm doing all the way around here and a little on the buttons. There we go. Now, I'm going to put just a little bit of blue in there because a lot of times snow has that blue tint. So this is light balmy blue. I'm just putting a little bit. So you can see this looks quite dark, but when you use your color lifter and you smooth that edge and push some of it through, it doesn't stay as dark. Now to draw my scene in here, I actually used my dark gray granite, and you just start drawing. You're just drawing in the edge of a pond, and it can be whatever shape you want, and you might want to put maybe a little snow hill here on the edge. So you're just drawing in whatever you like, and I did put a little bit around the trees, and then I brought it just across the page to fill up some of that background. So just have some fun with it. Put in some little extra snow mounds. And then you're going to start adding your color. And that was the dark gray granite. So to do this part, I actually come back in and go right over top of that gray granite line with my light gray granite. I'm going to pull it out just a little bit from that line. Okay, I think I hit all of them. Okay, so that is how I drew in my scene, and they were different every time I did it. And then, to help smooth the lines, so it has that nice soft effect, I used my color lifter, and I went over the very edge of my lines and just blended them out a little bit. And you're going to see I have a way to finish this that's going to brighten it up a little bit. So I'm just softening those edges a little bit. For my snowman, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm coming in here and I'm just doing little circles, and I'm just softening all that color that I put on. And don't worry about how it looks, because I'm going to show you a technique to help with this color a little bit. So that's how I kind of smooth the edge And then when we add the finishing touches on, it'll look wonderful. So I have one that I've already done, and I actually already did the white on this. So I colored my trees with a light and a dark, and then I used a white paint marker pen. And I'm going to go ahead and do it right here on this one so you can see. But after I added my color in, so I put on light balmy blue, and I did the same thing with my color lifter. I used the bullet tip to kind of soften the edges and lighten it around there. And when all my coloring was done and all the areas were done, I took my white paint marker, and you can use a white gel pen, whatever you have. I have a little tester sheet here. Get it going. Some of them are getting dried out. I've been doing a lot of these cards. Let me just grab another one really quick. There we go. So you're just going to do little dots, like a medium-sized dot and then some really tiny dots. And that helps kind of give that sparkly appearance of snow. So I usually color my whole picture, and then I add in my dots. And I do it on the snow too. So you do it on the snow, and then it helps really soften that gray. So it's more like snow piles. So that is how I did those parts. So once you color everything in, those dots, you can see when I pull it up close to the camera how that looks. It's kind of gives a little sparkle. And snow is not just bright white. It has shadows and different colors in it. So here's my one that I colored already. And I used cherry cobbler, old olive, mossy meadow, smoky slate. When I did the snow, I used gray granite. I also brought in some light balmy blue for the blue on my frozen pond, and I brought in the natural tones 900 for my carrot nose. I didn't want a bright orange nose because I was going with the classic Christmas combo of reds and greens, so I wanted to keep the other colors to a minimum. And then after all of my dots were on, I just did this for a style that I liked. After I had all my white dots on, again, you can use the paint marker, you can use a gel pen, or a white coloring pencil or watercolor pencil. I let it sit for a minute to dry. So now I'm going to show you how I do those lines. So on this card, I just used my ruler and a Stampin' Write marker to trace around on my box. So grab that, and you're just going to line this back up on your grid paper, and your line's there as a guide while you're stamping so you don't go over it. And then we're just going to make it darker, and I like to use my ruler, and I just start, and I'm stopping where those two lines intersect. I don't want it to go beyond it. Now, if you like the style of it going beyond, then feel free to do that. And then again, I'm just going to continue this and go all the way around. And to me, this just really reminds me of a postage stamp. I like the border. You could leave the border off if you don't like the dark border around. These are one of my favorite dies, and I love doing this technique, and I'm going to show you some other ways that I added in lines in some of my other cards. So you can have a lot of fun with it. I just like the defined border. Now, if you don't have Stampin' Right markers, you could use a dark colored pencil. I do not recommend using a blend for this because blends bleed and they're not fine tip. So I don't recommend that, but you could use whatever kind of marker you have or pencil that would give you this look. Okay, so now I've gone all the way around. And now I'm going to use an eraser, and I like these high poly erasers. And I'm just erasing this. Now, if you use a colored cardstock, these erasers work really well and do not discolor your cardstock. So if you were doing a very vanilla or maybe a basic beige, maybe you want a vintage look for your postage stamp, or, you know, a pool party or something like that, you could do that. So you can see after I erase everything and there's no lines left. And you could go along here too, in case you didn't trace exactly where your line was, you can just erase it. As long as a Stampin' Blend marker did not touch your pencil line, it will erase. If you accidentally were coloring or something and got it on your pencil line, it makes it permanent to the paper, just so you know. I have done it, so I will give you that FYI. If you decide to use a Sharpie or something like that and you do your lines before you color, just know that Sharpies may interact with your Stampin' Blends because they're a permanent marker and the solution is similar. So let's stamp our greeting. And I stamped that in Smoky Slate. So I'm just going to pick that up. Let me grab my Smoky Slate. I'm just tapping into my ink pad gently. They're foam pads, so if you squish into the Stampin' Up! Pads too much, you're going to get a halo on your words. Just test it out here. Okay. So I'm just going to stamp my greeting up here in the top. There we go. And now we're ready to assemble. I hope you have enjoyed this technique. Please let me know in the comments if you give it a try. And if you enjoyed my video, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm going to stamp on the inside here really quick, just a little tree. I like to stamp on the inside of my card. Now you could color this to match the outside if you wanted. You could do a little coloring, or you can just leave it gray and white. And then you can stamp Merry Christmas or whatever you want on the inside, or there's plenty of room for your private message. Let me crease this a little better here. There we go. And this is all ready. I'm just gluing it flat. You could step it up a little bit and use dimensionals, or you could use a matte underneath if you wanted to add another color in. I just really like this one layer look of what I'm calling the postage stamp card. I just think it looks like a little postage stamp coming in the mailbox. So there we have it. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the comments of the video. And I want to say thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.